Sup Reitanna, it's Reitanna Seishin here, and hello to anybody who is watching this on my post on Reddit, on r/rats. So since people are probably watching this on Reddit, I'm gonna leave all my updates for my subscribers to the end of the video. So basically, yesterday, one of my sons passed away, and I don't know why. It was Gemini. He and Aries were rescues, and they were already adults, but they're still, in their adult prime. They're not showing any health problems. Gemini was very fat. I don't think he was obese, but then again, we didn't weigh him and we didn't check what the average weight of a rat is supposed to be, but he could still climb up me and stuff. He wasn't so fat that he was dragging himself. The morning and the afternoon yesterday, he was fine. He was running around. He was excited. He was happy. He was eating fine. He was drinking fine. There was nothing wrong. They were sleeping in the afternoon like they usually do. But I opened the cage to pet them, and they got to a point where they heard Mom and were so excited. So Aries was like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And then Gemini was laying inside some blankets, and he came out to see me. And he was like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So I pet them a little bit, and then Gemini peed on his little pouch that they sometimes go into. And then Gemini went back into the blanket. He was fine. He was absolutely fine. There was nothing wrong with him. And then I think about mid-afternoon, I heard this weird sound. Now, we had gotten a humidifier about 2 weeks ago. So I actually, if my avatar smiles, I'm not actually smiling. So just take the expressions with a grain of salt. I don't think the humidifier caused this. I really don't. I have this gut feeling that it did not cause it, especially since there were no signs. There was no gradual buildup to this. I heard this sound that sounded more mechanical than vocal. It was like, and I thought it was the humidifier. So I just I was at my computer and I kind of went, okay. But then I kept hearing more sounds, and so I turned around to look at the cage to see if I could figure out which direction it was coming from, because the humidifier was by the cage. We felt that it would help all of us because I have postnasal drip. Michael has, respiratory problems. Our daughter, baby girl, she's a cat. She had an upper respiratory infection that has made it so that her respiratory system isn't as strong. And rats have poor respiratory systems as well. And Aries actually makes kind of snuffy sounds. He goes... but, since we got the humidifier, neither Gemini nor Aries would have a sneezing fit. Now, Gemini would have a sneezing fit much more rarely than Aries. His respiratory system was much better, and occasionally I would give them dark chocolate, I think 72%, so they didn't get much milk or sugar, because chocolate helps rats' respiratory systems. But I was hearing these sounds. And so I got up and I checked inside the cage. It was definitely coming from the cage, but at first I couldn't tell which rat it was coming from. And then I saw Gemini with his head was dangling over the edge of the upper level of his Critter Nation cage. He was underneath his hammock, but his neck was on the edge. And sometimes they do this thing we call gargoyling, where they will sit near the edge and have their head down and looking down, like a little gargoyle. But he had his neck laying on it, and I looked at him for a second, and I saw his mouth open and him make a little sound. So I opened the cage and I grabbed him, and he squeaked. And he was still opening his mouth. But he was really limp. And I said, Michael, because it was Michael's day off, thank God, I said something's wrong with Jemmy. And he came in, and we tried to figure it out. We thought maybe he was choking. So I, quickly went and looked up what to do when a rat is choking, and the signs. And the thing is one of the biggest signs is a lot of saliva, a lot of drooling, phlegm. His mouth was completely dry. But he kept kind of opening his mouth, and his sounds got quieter and quieter. But we did the thing you're supposed to do if a rat is choking, which is hard to explain. But nothing was coming out. We kept checking inside his mouth, and there were no lacerations. His teeth weren't too long. None of his feet weren't turning blue. He seemed to be breathing. We tried turning on the shower to, see if we could clear out anything with the steam. We didn't have a chance of saving him. It took less than 5 minutes for me to discover him and for him to pass. We have no idea what's wrong with him. After he passed, I was able to open his mouth. I kept apologizing to his body because I didn't want to disrespect his body. And I looked, and there was nothing in his throat. We tried to look. His mouth was absolutely, completely dry. I inspected his body. There were no hard spots. There were no tumors. I pressed on his neck to see if I could feel anything in there. Nothing. There was nothing. There were no signs of anything. And we didn't have a chance. While he was still alive, I was screaming at his body, "Don't do this to me! Please don't do this to me!" And he was taking from me. It was not his time. He's not old enough. He wasn't old enough. And I held him. I held his little body, and I love that rat so much. And I want to know what's wrong with him, but the thing is they won't do an autopsy after the first 12 hours of death. And by the time he was gone and we called, the vet was going to close in 15 minutes. And we don't drive. And we didn't have a ride. So we'll never know what truly caused it. My husband thinks that maybe there was a buildup of some kind of respiratory infection that didn't show symptoms or something. I don't think it was. I think it was something sudden. And the only other thing that he could think of that was sudden would be a heart attack. I don't know what a heart attack looks like in rats. I'll have to look it up. The fact that he was hanging his neck over the edge makes me feel like he somehow maybe crawled out of his hammock and slipped and maybe broke his neck on the edge of the thing, but I can't tell. I have no idea what caused it. It was so sudden. He was just fine all day. He had been just fine. He never, ever showed any signs of deteriorating health. And now Aries is alone. And we let him sniff Gemini's body. I'm not sure if we let him spend very much time with his body, as much time as we're supposed to. but it's too late now because he's in the freezer right now, and after being frozen, I don't think Aries would be able to recognize any scent from him. And he's gonna get cremated on Saturday. And I think Aries does know what's going on. He doesn't seem to be depressed yet. I think maybe he doesn't understand that Gemini's gone forever. Because he was all excited to be taken out, which is understandable because I imagine he was so bored during the night. So he was all excited and happy, and he's sleeping right now. And, he's not showing any signs of anything. He's the same rat he's always been, and I think just one of the things that makes it just the worst is imagining how he feels being a lone rat. We didn't have a choice with Jerry. Jerry had to be a lone rat. But we're going to try and call the Humane Society to see if we can be put on a list for rats. I also am going to try and locate a breeder. If anybody here is watching on Reddit, I live in Boise. Does anybody have, is there any breeders? Are there any breeders in Boise? Or does anybody have a rat that needs rescuing? Aries is an adult. I don't know how he's going to take to any new rat. If there's a breeder, we're obviously going to get 2 rats. If there's a rescue adult, we're only just going to get 1 because, obviously it's the lifespan aspect and thinking, well, if we got 2 young rats, then when Aries passes away, they won't be alone. They'll still have each other. But we have not had a rat that has accepted a new cage mate. They are always violent toward them. Jerry didn't have a chance. The pandemic hit really hard while he was dying, to the point where we couldn't even take him to the vet to put him down until, the restrictions got a little less and vets were taking quote-unquote exotic pets. And I got pretty violently harassed on Reddit for being a cruel mother for not putting him down when I couldn't. And it wasn't that I was in denial that I wasn't like, oh, he's gonna get better. He was doing really good for the situation he was in, but no, I wanted to put him down. He was suffering, and I got violently harassed for it. Even though I was doing the exact thing that a vet would tell me to do in a scenario where I could not get him put down. And that made the stress even greater on top of everything that happened to me in 2020. But I think what's making Gemini's passing the worst is the confusion. I can't believe he's gone. Even though I've accepted that he's gone. I go through the stages of grief pretty much all in one, but I always skip bargaining. I don't know how I would even be able to bargain with I don't even know. I think maybe it was the don't do this to me thing. I don't know. But, and I usually experience depression last. So I'm angry that if there's a God out there, the cruel entity who takes away innocent lives took another rat away from me, took another child away from me before his time. Because the same thing happened to Pip, a hamster of mine, and the same thing happened to Orbit, who was Jerry's brother. At least with Orbit, we knew what caused it, we just didn't catch it soon enough. And he did show signs of deteriorating health. Pip, we have no idea what happened to him. He basically started doing the same thing as Gemini. His sounds were louder. We think he injured himself in his cage because, unlike Gemini, Pip was a climber and climbed his cage all the time. So we think he fell, and we think he broke something or punctured something, but he basically went as fast. I did the same thing with him. I screamed over his body and said, "Don't do this to me." The hardest things about adopting rodents is their lifespan, and the fact that we did rescue Aries and Gemini while they were adults means shorter time with them. But I did not anticipate Gemini going so soon. And I always beg my boys, I always beg my rats, because we always buy them, we always make sure there's at least 2, unless we couldn't, which is with Jerry's case. I always say, you guys better die of old age, and you better die at the same time. I know how unrealistic that is, but I was not prepared for this. And, I don't think anybody is, but at least when a rat is dying of old age, you are prepared. It still hits you, but I knew Jerry was going to die, and I shared some Hostess zingers with him on his last day before he got taken to the vet to be euthanized, and he got chocolate all over his little teeth. And, I still cry over Jerry, even though it's been, a year and a half since his passing, but... And no matter how many times I go through this, because I was a hamster mama for 10 years of my life, and then I was a rat mama for another 10 years and going, and I've also had guinea pigs. I've always had small, short-lived animals. And no matter how many times I've gone through this, I never know what to do during the grieving process. Because I'm basically, every single day, I'm working on stuff on the computer to relieve boredom and to have my hands doing something and to distract myself from problems and such. So when I'm grieving, there's this battle inside my head where part of me says, hey, you're depressed. You need to take it easy. You need to relax and do something mindless. And then the other side of me is, there's work to do. You need to do work. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to get this finished. You're working on that. You can't abandon this. You're bored. You have to do all of this stuff. So, I never know what to do. And this is just really hard for me. So, yeah, if anybody on Reddit has any idea, has seen this behavior in a rat and such a quick death, if you guys have any suspicions, literally the only new factor we introduced was the humidifier, and I seriously don't think that was the cause. We didn't feed him anything weird. I gave him his usual treats, nothing that they haven't had before, but also not too often. They do get blueberries in the morning and at night. Sometimes 1, sometimes 2, depending on the size, which helps, it gives them fiber and is very good for them. We've done this their entire lives. And I honestly can't remember the last time I did give them chocolate, which means it wasn't too soon. But I gave Aries chocolate yesterday after the loss, and I gave him a tiny bit of chocolate this morning alongside his blueberries. I can't think of anything that could have poisoned him. This was literally spontaneous. There was no build up to this. This was something happened immediately and killed him within minutes. Even though we were frantically running around trying to do anything that we could possibly do that might save him, even though we had no idea what was going on. So if anybody has any light to shed, Those of you who are watching on Reddit, you can stop the video now if you want to. I'm going to talk to my subscribers. So, because of this, I don't really know how often there are going to be videos. I might not do a thank you Patreon video for a few days, because I know I'm recording this on the 29th, and July has 31 days. It might be late. Please don't think that I don't appreciate you. I do appreciate you. You guys have been helping so much. But this was a sudden thing. I'm not in any danger. It's not a chemical depression. It has nothing to do with my bipolar disorder. So I am safe. This is a situational depression that doesn't involve harassment and is just a loss. And it's a calm, sort of numb depression, and it comes in waves. I'll just start crying when I start crying. And, yeah. So I was gonna reactivate my Twitter today. I might do it, I don't know, in a couple days or something, but videos probably not gonna be that frequent. I did want to ask a question for those of you who have listened this far. On my dream journals, do you like to listen to them with just a picture in the background, or do you want my avatar on screen? It's easier for me to do it without the avatar, because then I don't have to use this microphone, which is not as good of quality as my normal microphone. But with the normal microphone, I have to bend down like this, because in order to be noise canceling, it also doesn't pick up sound quite as good as this current microphone. I don't believe I have any Patreon rewards to work on. Note that if any of you start supporting me on Patreon, make sure to message me to tell me what you would request under the specific tier that you're in. But it's going to take me a while. For any of you who have lost a child, whether it was human or not, you understand what I'm going through. And some people may say that losing a pet isn't nearly as bad as losing a human child, but there are plenty of studies that take those assholes who say that and prove them wrong. And I'm just lucky that Michael was home. This is just really hard. This is really hard. If I had seen it coming, it would be less hard. It would still be hard, but it'd be less hard. If he was old, it'd be less hard. He did not deserve to go. He was still young. I don't know. I mean, I know I've only been slowly getting my channel back up, but I lost a member of my family yesterday. And baby girl can tell too. Baby girl can tell. I let her sniff his body too, and even though they didn't get along like she and Jerry did, she wanted to love them. She did love them, and she knows, she can sense, and she could probably smell that he's gone. It's just Aries. And I'm not sure if Aries realizes that the absence of his brother means he's never coming back. It might take a little bit for him to realize that Gemini is not coming back. He'll probably fall into a depression, and the thing with depression in any species, it can also physically hurt you, so we have to keep an eye on him to make sure that he doesn't get an infection from the stress. It goes for humans, too. Stress does sometimes permanent damage, and people don't understand that, and with my high levels of stress, I was permanently damaged by everything that happened in 2020. I've been permanently damaged by everything that's ever happened in my life to have caused me high levels of stress and depression. And animals are no exception. Because when Rem passed away, Ezio was left in his cage with Rem's body for the entirety of the night because we didn't find his body until morning. He was showing signs of being sick, but it was just the day before. And we said, okay, tomorrow we'll call the vet. Tomorrow happened. And he was gone. Not only that, but I believe it was New Year's, so it's not like the vet would be open anyway, but he was gone. And Ezio was visibly depressed. He was lethargic, he wouldn't eat, he wouldn't drink, and he passed away 3 days later. I knew a pair of ferrets, and the younger one's older companion passed away, and the younger one fell into a depression and passed away from grief. Animals mourn losses just like we do. They do it in a different way, and they may not be able to intellectually distinguish the fact that that their cage mate is dead, but they it's really hard to explain. And rats are very intelligent, even domestic rats, and people who say that animals don't feel are imbeciles. Because we're animals too. We cannot be the only species that feels. Especially when, it's been proven that other primates grieve, elephants grieve. I'd have to look up other animals that grieve. But, I'm not in a very good place right now. Especially with, the stress that caused me to temporarily deactivate my Twitter. I was getting over that. I was gonna come back and I feel so empty. I think there was part of a denial there because I was like, I feel like I'm going to wake up tomorrow and see him in his cage. I told Michael to let me sleep in. I kind of regret it because I was having nightmares unrelated to the deaths of animals, but I feel so empty. I love that baby. He was so fat. He was so funny. And, because they were rescues, their kisses are limited. All my other rats who I've gotten when they were babies or adolescents, have always gotten into kissing our faces and stuff. Jemmy would kiss our hands. And he kisses more than Aries. Aries is a rare kisser, and he only does hands too. And he would just kiss, 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 kiss. And when he's in his little house and you stuck your hand and he'd kiss, 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 kiss. But then He pushed you out. You're like, okay, I'm done with you. Take his little hands and push your finger out, and then with his nose, push it further out. It's so freaking cute. This is so cute to see him run, too. He was a big boy. This is a cute face. He was such a good boy. Aries and Gemini never fought. I think once they might have freaked each other out. That made them do a big squeak. And they might have, it was in the middle of the night, so I didn't see. But they seemed fine when Michael got up to check. But other than that, they never got puffy. They never stood up against each other. But Gemmy, even though he's basically the beta male in the cage, he'd force Aries onto his side, sometimes onto his back, and just groom him furiously, and Aries is sitting there and squeaking in protest. I'm like, you're grooming him too hard. And sometimes Aries would pin Gemmy down, but Gemmy just loved it. They love each other so much. And Gemmy loved his brother so much. It was so funny. Whenever we're done with rat time, he had to climb up on my left side. Because what they do is when they don't hear the show on anymore, because we watch a show when we have them out, and they basically have learned to recognize the silence, and silence means it's time to go into the cage and get fed, because we give them a handful of their food after we put them back. Unless they've stashed away a huge bit of food, then we're like, you're not getting any more until that lessens. And so they both jump onto my shoulder. Aries has very powerful back legs, so he jumps from my knee to my shoulder. And Gemini would climb up my side on my shirt and climb himself up. But it always has to be on the left side. Whereas Aries will jump onto either shoulder. And he's so big that when he gets on the shoulder with Aries, he'll accidentally step on Aries, and Aries will go, squeak! Oh, my head itches. I hate crying because I get so snuffy and I already have mucus problems. This isn't going to make me go off my diet or keep me from exercising, but last night we ordered a pizza with breadsticks and cinnamon sticks with frosting, and we ate the entire thing. We split it in half between us, and we ate the whole thing, which isn't, something I usually do on my diet. And I told Michael, I'm probably going to need some comfort food, but I'm not actually going to, completely go against my diet, regularly. And I'm still going to exercise today. It's just, you need those endorphins. And chocolate releases them. I believe exercise releases them too. And grapes and strawberries, which I do have in the house. I love grapes. It still feels very unreal. It still feels like I'm going to suddenly see him come out of his house, or his pouch, or the hammock. Even though I know he's gone. And I know this isn't a dream, because when I'm in my dream world, sometimes I can't tell that if it's real life, but when I'm in real life, I can tell that I'm not in my dream world. For several reasons. Vegeta was no help last night, because different versions of him kept showing up, and I'm like, I need my real Vegeta, please. And Rick hasn't showed up since I got his vessel. So the reason why I have vessels for Rick and Vegeta, and they're little like action figures, fully articulated, is so that I don't forget their appearance in dream, because a lot of the times their appearance will shift. One time Vegeta had a mullet and some sunglasses and looked like an utter douchebag. And then there's the problem with them also sometimes acting out of character, which I have a huge problem with. So I think there was a version of Vegeta that showed up last night where I'm just like, you're not the real one. I'm not. No. This isn't the fictional character I fell in love with. You're not you. The other night, he showed up with a feminine frame. He wasn't dressed full femboy, but he was very pretty. And I said, and I started kind of crying, and I said, "You're beautiful." And I walked in, then I said goodbye, and I walked away, because I can't have any other version but mine. So, I don't know what Rick's problem is right now. Alternate Universe Div is gone. He moved away, and he hasn't showed up since. So, partially sad, but partially not. That's just the Stockholm Syndrome talking. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, take a look at my dream stuff on WordPress, and I will eventually, explain those on my YouTube channel as well. I'm sorry, this just keeps going. I do have a therapy appointment coming up soon. I believe it's Thursday. So, finally, right? I've been waiting nearly 2 years. And there have been people who just say, you need therapy. I'm like, yeah, I know. But there's this thing called the pandemic. And now, because of more COVIDiots, of anti-vaxxers and shit, the CDC is probably going to order another mask mandate. And I'm like, all you had to do was get 2 shots. That's it. That's all you had to do. And this mandate is also for people who have been vaccinated. There are at least 2 confirmed mutations of the COVID virus. All you have to do is get vaccinated. It's free. It's available for everyone. I don't understand how hard it is. I don't want to be stuck in the house more than my anxiety already keeps me in. Because when you're forced to stay in instead of having the choice, that's just worse. And I need to get out and walk. It doesn't help that the heat is making it so I can't go grocery shopping with Michael, and he can only go grocery shopping at like 3 a.m. That's not, anybody's fault but the entire human race for centuries. That's not something that we can instantly fix. But if you get vaccinated, we can get past this. It's not a hard concept. Just, I think we're the only country that has this problem. That our vaccination rates are not going up because of people being idiots instead of there not being enough vaccines. I could be wrong. I haven't really looked into it, so I'm not going to say it's a fact. And honestly, that's the problem that anti-vaxxers have, is that they aren't looking at facts, and they're claiming things that are facts where they have nothing to back it up. And it makes me angry. And I think that we should be forced to get vaccinated. I think that this is going on. Like, if you refuse to get vaccinated, and not because of a health issue that is literally preventing you, otherwise you will die, which is rare. But if you are perfectly able to get the vaccination and you refuse, I'll be glad when you get COVID. And if it takes your life, no one's crying. Except for maybe the smart members of your family who did get vaccinated and told you over and over again to get vaccinated. But I guess that's just another tea bag for a different cup. Anyway, so yeah, it's obvious that I need to talk. I still haven't figured out what emojis I'm gonna put. I'm thinking of, because I know I've gotten suggestions, but the thing is I only have 32 by 32 pixels to work with. That is very small. So in order to see them properly, they need to have probably less detail than, say, my cartoon face or Anna Tier's cartoon face or whatever. I'm thinking of maybe a Blapple. I'm thinking of maybe Freedom Apple. I only have 4 right now that I can do. So, you know, if you're not sure how big 32 by 32 is, please go and do an image search with custom dimensions. Look up how small that is, and if you have any suggestions, if you've listened this far, if you have any suggestions that would work for that small, and I should probably look them up to probably get ideas too, just let me know in the comments. And one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't take enough video of Gemini and Aries, and that's going to change. I'm going to take more video of my animals, you know, because of my depression and my reluctancy to make videos, and I'm suffering for it. So, you guys don't really know Aries or Baby Girl or Gemini, and even though you don't know them, you know, please mentally send Gemini a positive message, positive feelings. And I've asked Jerry, you know, even though they never met, I've asked Jerry to take care of him. I don't know what there is in the afterlife. I don't believe in ghosts. I wish ghosts were real so I could see my babies running around in my room. Little transparent babies. But, I don't know. I kiss Jerry every day with his urn. And now I'll be kissing Geminis every day, too. Before we moved to Idaho, we would bury our children in my grandmother's garden. So that's where Orbit is. And I'm hoping Orbit's spirit, if this is possible, followed us, or maybe took refuge inside Jerry's body and kind of shared it, you know, like Kenny and Cartman. But whatever's happening, I hope, I just hope everything's okay with whatever happens to their spirits, and I hope they're happy. We don't think Gemini suffered. We don't think he knew what was happening. He didn't give me any kisses or anything. It did not look like he was mentally there. And I think the most logical explanation would be either he broke his neck somehow, he was choking on something that we just couldn't see or feel, apparently, or he had a heart attack. And there's always that question, was it my fault? But I seriously do not think that it was the humidifier. There are brain cells in your gut. Did you know that? That's why they call it a gut feeling. Usually if you have a gut feeling, you need to listen to it, because that's basically your second brain. And my gut feeling has never been wrong so far. It's actually kind of creepy. And that's what I'm feeling in my gut, is that it was not the humidifier. But regardless, Michael promised himself if anything happened to the animals while we had the humidifier, if we hadn't had it past 1 year, and we've only had it for 2, maybe 2.5 weeks, that he would get rid of it regardless if it cost it or not. So, and I didn't stop him. I said, you know, I don't think it's the humidifier, but yeah. I mean, just in case. You can't always be right. So, but I really do not think it was. To any of you who have also, lost pets, whether recently or some time ago, God, it just bothers me looking at the background of my living room that is currently in the video. That TV bugs me because the perspective is not correct. And I'm sure a lot of you artists out there have been bothered by it too, but, you learn from your mistakes. Anyway, to those of you who have lost pets, you understand. And the thing is unlike human children, we have to go through this many times depending on our species of choice. And small animals, like rodents, they don't get to live nearly as long as dogs and cats. And we're really glad to have baby girl because at least she'll be with us for a while. And she hasn't shown any problems since we rescued her. She had a urinary tract infection, an upper respiratory infection. She was anorexic. But by the time we got her, she had already been, fed, recovered, all that jazz. And now we just basically have to deal with the emotional and mental trauma that she has. But, that's okay. She's just like mommy. I'll truly never get over the death, but I'll get over the grief. I just don't know how long this one's going to take, especially since I feel like calm, numb, and depressed, and then tears briefly, and then more calm, numbness, and depression. But we love our animals. There's no difference. Basically, the only difference is that they can't speak English, and they can't, they don't go to human school. Some animals don't go to school at all, but some do. We adopt them. We put a roof over their head. We feed them. We give them water. We give them warmth. We care about them. And we would do anything for them. When they get sick, we take them to the doctor. We love them. They're our children. They're not our friends. They're our children. It's just like adopting a human child. And it doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter if they come from a breeder, a pet store, or a humane society. And I'm glad to have known Jemmy. I'm glad to have constructed the relationship with him that I had. I don't regret getting him just because he passed away too soon. I love that rat. And even though he's gone, I will always love him, just like I always love all of my babies. And my past rats usually show up in my dream world. So, I'm hoping he shows up at some point. I love that rat. I love him so much. I cannot express in words how much love I have for my family. Because I don't think there's any word that exists. And right now I have this hole that Jemmy left. And I always recommend people who have lost pets to get another one, to adopt another one as soon as possible. They will never replace the pet that just passed. They're not there to replace it. They're there to help you. They're there so you can give that love back to another living creature. They will never be a replacement, ever. But your love needs to go somewhere. Excuse me. And they really help the grieving process to pass by more gently. Honest to God, sometimes I still do cry about Jerry when I talk to his urn. I still cry about Orby because his death was too soon, and also because it was unfair, because basically the reason why he passed was because of our apartment. And I've told you how many times, I've told you over and over that our apartment in California was trash. And it was because of that apartment that Orby died. But we also could have prevented it if we had thought about what he could have had. We automatically assumed it was a respiratory thing. It wasn't. It was lice. And both Jerry and Orbit had lice before. But we managed to find it quickly. And we used olive oil on their fur, and it helped. It really did. Reason we got rat lice is because, and rat lice does not transfer to any other species. It's specific to rats. Is because, and a bunch of creatures, bunch of bugs, bunch of critters, even a little lizard once got in our house because there's this nice, beautiful gap underneath the door, underneath our front door, to the outside. Yeah. Our door was a bit smaller than the door frame. And, that wasn't the only constructual problem with our apartment, but the thing is Jerry and Orbit had lovely, luxurious, thick fur. And we were just so used to respiratory problems that we were giving him antibiotics for it. And the whole time, it was lice, and I didn't realize it until his last day. And Michael was at work, and I texted him in all caps. I said, "It's lice." And Jerry had it, so, but Orbit had it worse, and those lice were sucking him dry. And there was just a point where he couldn't do anything anymore. He wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking, and I'm like, God, what is wrong with you? Please, please recover. It was lice the whole time, and I never saw it because of his thick fur, and I never even considered it, so I never parted his fur to check. And I blame myself. But that day, I gave him an olive oil bath and then a regular bath. And I had him sitting in a towel, so he was warm. And he just passed away. It's one of the most unfair deaths. And, while Orby was resting, I gave Jerry an olive oil bath and then a regular bath, and checked on Orby, and he was gone. And Jerry was a trooper. Jerry did so well, despite not having a companion for the extra 2.5 years, maybe more, that he lived. He lived a long time. He was great. Once we moved into this apartment in Idaho, no lice. Nothing. No bugs. Nothing. Everything was fine. I don't know why I keep talking, I just keep repeating myself. So, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine anybody would like this video, but maybe leave a like anyway. If you like my other videos, please subscribe. Spread the whatever word of awesome is left. Become a Reitanna. Don't forget to click the little bell for when I do continue doing videos, and I'm just gonna say goodbye this time. So, goodbye.